What's up, man? How long has it been?
It's been, I don't know, a year and a
Over a
half.
year, probably over a year, right?
Yeah.
Quite long, admitted. Listen,
It's
no, I don't know. I just have
what is it, like 9 p.m. over there now?
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, 9:03. Yeah,
Wow.
I just thought. I mean, we've been throwing emails left and right, so I thought, it's all good and well to exchange a couple of emails, but why not talk directly?
Absolutely, dude. I
Yeah,
appreciate the opportunity. I always enjoy speaking with you.
for sure. Yeah. So, man, I mean, 1.5 years feels like it was yesterday. And admittedly, my channel hasn't grown a bit. How about your channel? I remember last time you told me you had a channel.
My audience is growing, man. It's
Really? Look at
oh
that.
yeah. Mine is obviously it's not YouTube. It's an audio podcast, so I put it up on YouTube and my traffic there is minimal. But
Yeah.
through apps like Spotify and Apple Podcast and iHeartRadio and just these different streaming platforms, people are hitting it good, man. So
It's interesting. Wow. So you distribute it to as many platforms as possible, right?
yes, yeah.
Only
So
audio, though. Why not video?
too hard for me to produce. Myself being blind
For sure.
and finding somebody to do that, like on volunteer basis, is yeah.
Yeah, but when it comes to audio, you do it all by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Man, you know what? One thing I've told you repeatedly via emails, sometimes you point out the details that seeing people cannot point out to. And sometimes, and especially when it came to describing my images of the dog that I got the other day, how you managed to in a very detailed way, describe the bed, the shades of the fur of the dog. Tell me, because we might have talked about that, but, what kind of AI is involved in that?
I think the technology that I use uses ChatGPT, and I think for blind people, they give a little bit more detail. I could be wrong on that because they're very they don't want they don't want people to be able to identify people. I don't know why through the image, like for privacy concerns, but for blind people, that stinks because we want to know who's in the picture, and what they look like, and and stuff like that. So, basically, it uses ChatGPT in the background. So I go to an image, hit a keystroke, it says processing image, and then boom, there it is. It gives you a text description, and you can ask questions. So it's basically like there's a black dog staring at the camera. It's large. There's a man sitting on the laying on the bed. Behind him is decorative wallpaper. He has a brass headboard.
Yep.
And so and then I can just ask it questions about that picture. I said, does the man have a beard? Yes. He has a beard, brown,
At least he did at that time. I don't know how it's going to go, because you never know with all this plastic that everybody consumes. Goddamn, my ass has not been sleeping very well.
Dude, it was so detailed. The one picture you sent, it said that it didn't say your girlfriend, but you're not going to wear yoga pants,
Well, no. Well, listen, let's keep it for after the podcast, because certain things cannot be disclosed on public,
Got it.
Yeah.
We're not in the podcast right now, correct?
We are. Hell yeah, we are. We absolutely are. We've been rolling. Yeah, why not? Listen, as soon as the guest joins,
gotcha. I thought you were going to.
Yeah, but man, it's not like a certain topic oriented or there's a particular matter on the table, right?
Wonderful, perfect.
Just like you said. Yeah. So, and by the way, there would be big pity to lose this initial moments of greeting each other and rambling about this random.
Oh, shit. Absolutely, yeah, man. So it's cool. So what else have you been up to? I mean, the war's been crazy.
I mean, shit. I don't remember my mood and my mindset back in the episode that we recorded 1.5 years ago regarding the war. But I've been pretty much growing more and more pessimistic, I must be honest with you, considering the trajectories and, tendencies of certain situations. It's well known generally, at least here in Ukraine, that, most realistic / slightly maybe pessimistic people, we understand that regardless of the quick outcome of this war, it's pretty. I like when people call it as existential threat and existential war, because I don't see how Russia could all of a sudden disappear from the surface of the earth, or suddenly somehow magically move away from Ukrainian borders. As long as it's the status quo, as long as the map looks how it looks, there are lots of risks because we, according to them, we impose a certain threat to their national identity merely by existing. So as long as there is this sovereign country called Ukraine, those bastards will not have any sort of illusion of peace. Now, the question is that I've been often contemplating is, what do we do? And I think that's the most pertaining question to the current situation. I think, listen, man, half jokingly, half seriously, I say we've got to initiate the nuclear program. I don't give a shit about what other countries are going to see, how many sanctions we're going to have imposed. Nuclear weapon, we're going to have them nukes. That's it. That's the only case. One day the American president supports us, next day somebody else jumps in the office. One day the French president supports us, next election somebody else sits in the French office. People come and go, politics change, moods in different countries change. This pendulum swings from left to right to central, from left to right.
Yes.
So, but as long as we've got them nukes, let's see. I'll be fine. I'm gonna tell you myself, I'll be fine living in a broke country, meaning poor country with very devastating economical sort of repercussion of having the nuclear weapon. But it's better than to having your life at risk every time.
I mean, it's interesting because unless you go through war like what you've experienced, people really don't understand it.
No,
and that's what's tough. And because I know you, and because we keep in touch, here and there through email.
Yeah.
I've been able to keep, ahead of what's happening through communications with you outside of our American media, because it's hard to find truth in media, and I think that may even be global at this point. I'm not quite sure, but it's wonderful to be able to speak with you, to hear the real. And I came across a YouTube video that came up in my feed, and I was so excited to watch it. And maybe you've seen this. There were two guys. I don't know if they were American or from a different country, but I'm thinking they were American. They went to Ukraine and they knocked on. Their big gig for their YouTube channel is to go somewhere random and knock on a door and ask to cook a meal for them. They came to Ukraine and they knocked on the door, man. And this husband and wife were like, "Yeah, come on in."
Well, listen, Ukrainians are kind as long as those bastards don't speak Russian. The moment some Ukrainian hear one Russian letter, one Russian sound, I'll be very cautious with that. Yeah, English, hell yeah. Ukrainians are eager to practice English.
So they came in, they bought steaks, they grilled them up, they sat around, they had some drinks, and in the midst of all this, they were talking about the war and everything, and then these two American guys that were there, then the sirens went off. And so there they are with an incoming attack and experiencing this. So it was interesting to hear, their heart about this, when it was over.
Do you remember the title of the video? Is that perhaps
I don't. And even what's more interesting than this, dude, is they went to Russia before this to a random person's home. And so they had dinner with this Russian woman and so forth. Then they went to Ukraine and they sat down and said, it's kind of like the people, I guess they were trying to mostly say,
they felt mitigate, perhaps to minimize the difference between just civilians, because that's a common.
Yes, that's what I think they were trying to convey, that the civilians are good people. Government is government.
Me being Ukrainian, I don't buy that.
Okay.
I don't buy that. I don't buy.
Yeah, I don't know either. I was just watching, so I didn't have an opinion either way.
What must be said is clearly everybody's a person, right? We're all human. But for me personally, considering my recent sort of pessimistic kind of slide. I do not consider it to be a privilege. Perhaps we can disagree with that, and I'd like to get into that later in terms of from the point of view of religious perspective, let's say. But the fact that we're people, that's no advantage in my view. But when it comes to comparing Ukrainian civilians with Russian civilians, listen, it's a pure it's obvious and clear difference between how justice oriented these two nations really are. Ukraine is perhaps infamous for throwing all kinds of protests, expressing the public opinion in all kinds of quickest manner. As recently as last summer, there was this, you might have heard about this scandal that occurred when Zelensky was reportedly trying to cancel this NABU is the abbreviation for this department, anti-corruption department for some reason, and he's excused for that. Have you heard anything about that? So
I did not hear about that.
Yeah. So I think it was happening last summer, and the excuse for the office was that apparently in this department there was some Russian agents and people who were working for Russia who were secretly exchanging information. So Zelensky issued this bill to release this department, and then next day tens of thousands, perhaps even I don't know about 100, probably no, but thousands of people were out in the main squares of every single city with protests, with billboards, and I'd be
in Ukraine.
Yeah, for sure, immediately. Yeah, well, because it pertains to Ukraine.
Yeah, understood.
Right. So now I must also admit that many of those protesters out in the streets, they were interviewed by bloggers and journalists, and many of those guys, they kind of went there just for the good cause. Lots of them didn't even know the full form of the abbreviation, what it really stands for, of this bureau entire.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. So they just went there for the good cause because they firmly believe that there has to be this governmental organ, basically, that pulls back on the government from being corrupted and occupying all the power and all the money. Now, a couple of days back, it's a very recent story. There was another scandal with people being involved in abusing, their rights and stealing money from the, power sphere of Ukraine, meaning like electricity. Yeah, I don't want to get into that dirty shit, but. And people speak about it. People know it. People have this huge indignity regarding that. They are purely appalled by that. Now, as far as I know, Russians are not concerned with that. Last time I checked, 5 Russians didn't go to the main school. Couple of them went. Couple of them get busted by the local police. Couple of them made their stories on Instagram. That's it. An average Russian civilian, he keeps living, he keeps paying the taxes, he keeps sponsoring this Russian war machine, this huge propaganda-fueled war machine that aims nothing but to just expansion. And if you ask me about why the hell they're even expanded, who the hell knows why they're doing that? I don't know. Putin probably has some sick and twisted wet dreams about bringing the USSR back. So yeah, there's a big difference. There's a big difference between these two people. And I understand the American perspective, to an American person, it might appear like, well, Slavic people, they're all Slavic people. They very often Ukrainians speak Russian language, which I personally hate. But again, it's like if I was the Russian, God forbid, holy shit, if that ever happens to me, I'd probably shoot myself if I ever knew that. If I was Russian and my country started doing shit like that, I would, I think the best way is just to, by any means, escape this country. This is not North Korea. And some of them did it in the beginning of this incursion. Some of them did it. And I don't know if I respect it, but I know that they did the right thing, because at least physically and financially.
I remember that. Yeah, that was early on. Now that you mentioned that, I remember that.
Well, lots of Russians basically have flooded all kinds of neighboring countries, and they kind of spread all over the world. Now, good for them. At least they're financially non-invested, at least perhaps less invested than if they had been physically in Russia. But at the same time, yeah, man, listen, a Russian is a Russian. Some American politicians, the hardcore good American politicians, they know what the fuck is going on with Russia. They know that you've seen what they did to this red carpet, right? You might have read, you might have seen when Putin was put in front of this red carpet, and American soldiers were kneeling in front of the international criminal. Good American soldiers that are supposed to stand against injustice and all of those things. They were laying the red carpet before Putin. When I watched that,
I
was
I
absurd.
don't know anything about that one.
Well,
Wow.
they
Okay.
had a meeting in in Alaska. Remember some months ago,
Oh
Trump
yes,
and
I do
Putin had a
remember the
meeting.
meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's on which Putin, he landed on his plane. The plane landed. Bam, next thing you see American soldiers laying the red carpet. Putin walking down the red carpet, smiling, American soldiers on their knees. Crazy.
It's tough, man. War is a terrible, terrible tragedy. And I mean, and this can even transition into the religion. It's like, the real question becomes, if there is a God, why would he allow this? And I think every person asks themselves that.
I've asked you that, right?
Yes, you have. You've asked me that myself. And, as a Christian, I struggle with that myself, to be honest with you. I don't personally have a concrete answer. I can tell you what Christian theologians say, but I'm not really certain about that either.
Why are you not certain about the typical theologians?
Christian theologians teach that God allows suffering for his purposes, that to them, this is the only answer. And by the way, I'm no theologian. We know that. I'm an exorcist, so I'm not an apologist. I don't debate Bible with people. I'm too busy casting out demons to invest.
Busy with real shit.
Yeah, exactly. And sit around and theoretically discuss. But anyway, I'm going to do my best at explaining what they say. Okay, which is to them, God is omnipresent, all-knowing. He's always everywhere at the same time. Like he's God, right? So if war is happening, he's aware of it. So if he's aware of it, then he must allow it for his purposes. And as a human being, again, this is not what I'm saying, this is what theologians say. As a human being, we want to bring God down to our level as a human, which is inferior intelligence, inferior understanding, and say, you have to act like us. This is wrong. How could you do that? And so theologians say we can't bring God down to our level because he is supreme. He has his reasons and purposes for this, and we have to simply trust him, whatever that is. Now, I wrestle with that myself personally. I don't have a clear answer on it, and I'm just being honest. I lost my eyesight at age 17. That's tough. Did God allow that? I was married for 15 years. Our second son I lost as a stillborn. Did God allow that for his purposes? My wife left me for another man after 15 years of marriage. Did God allow that for his purposes? According to theologians, this is what makes the most sense, and people don't want to hear this because it's the hardest thing to accept. And again, I personally struggle with that myself because I think that as a Christian, we are born sinful. We have our own free will. We can do with our lives whatever we want to do. You've chosen to do something positive with your life. You work out, you have a podcast, you research, you study, right? So you're doing something positive with your other people. They want to be murderers, kill, rape, pillage. The Bible actually talks about this in Proverbs. So this has been going on even back in the Old Testament times, in the Bible. So I don't have any concrete answer. I don't think any of us do.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't. I mean, that's the best that they can come up with. So then the real question becomes, why would anyone want to serve Jesus Christ or God?
Mm-hmm.
Why would they? I mean, if he's allowing all of this murder and death across the world and he's supposed to be a good God, why would anyone choose to serve him? And for me personally, it's the guarantee of getting out of here. Like, this is like bad enough down here
Mm-hmm.
that the guarantee for me to be able to have eternal peace, connection, and love with God to get out of here is enough for me. And, you know, I've also, Bohdan, seen this Christianity unfold in real practical ways in my life and the lives of other people. This just isn't, yes, there has to be an element of faith to it,
Mm-hmm.
but on the other hand, I've seen tangible, measurable results of this. For example, I've seen people whose lives were complete train wrecks. I mean, you name it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, anything you can think of, I've seen in people's lives, my life included, before becoming a Christian. And the change in the person's life from the inside out, the change in attitude, the change in heart, the change in intention, the instant stopping of harmful behaviors or harmful habits is repeated time and time again. And I think this is a very common pattern where you see people that have very broken lives come to Christ, and then their lives turn around. And that is evidence to me personally that this works.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't answer the questions, the deep questions each of us have.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing it does do is prove to me that this is a solution to handle trauma in life and to hit the reset button. And I've seen it work. And I mean on big things, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Big things. Like the amount of trauma that I hear from the clients that I work with, it's only the grace of God that allows me to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
I have heard the most darkest, traumatic things that have happened to people's lives. And to see them go through exorcism, to see that trauma healed through therapy and expelling demons, and to see this person's life do a complete 360
Mm-hmm.
is outstanding. And I see it time and time again with people that I work with. So I know that's not answering your question, because there is, I can't give you, with regards to the war. So I'm just trying to explain why serve a God if this happens anyhow. And for me, even though I've went blind, even though I lost my marriage, I've lost way more than that in life. Lost my son. I could go, like, if I really sat here and shared everything, I could probably bring half your audience to tears, grabbing tissues.
Well, there would be approximately 2 people.
Yeah. But the point is, for me personally, the peace that I have in the midst of chaos is unmatched.
Now, yeah, sure. Now, when you say, so basically it's a bit of a exchange, right? You, as lots of people of faith, you give them yourself and they give themselves, and in return, in exchange, they claim to receive the guarantee, the ticket out of it. Because once you truly believe in this way out of here, no matter how tough it gets here, you are able to believe that, later after the death, it will be inevitably better, right? Now, yes. I'd like to specify whether you've considered that Because, you know, it's interesting to have a conversation about that. And, you know, although we, as you might have understood perhaps a couple of months back, we tend to have our differences on this topic. But,
Absolutely.
you know, I do love the fact that I do not fall into the same trap of jumping to conclusions very quickly and cutting out the connection from people who are of different opinion than me, especially when it comes to religion. Because, you know, I don't remember if I told you that story that happened to a friend of mine who was deeply devoted, a big man of faith. And, you know, me being, I think 10 or 12 years younger than I am right now, I was too, you know, I wasn't acting appropriately. I'm not saying that I was a straight up douchebag with him, you know, but that difference, it was always there, and it killed our friendship. And that friendship was the best friendship of my life. It had been the best friendship of my life before, you know, those things started happening. Since that, I've never been able to have a friend better than that guy, and I don't think I will ever. But, you know, so currently I don't want to let that kill the connection, the human connection between two people being on different sides.
Absolutely. Now, I think I mean, I agree with you 100%. I think it's essential that people are able to be emotionally mature enough to have differences and respect. Like, I respect your decision. Each of us have to figure out our own path in life. Obviously, I'd love everyone to become a Christian, but that's not going to happen. So I have a lot of, I mean, I have friends that are Muslim.
Sorry, Justin, do you mind if I smoke a cigar? Because listen, this conversation without nicotine is a real sin. You know?
Yeah. No,
do you smoke? Didn't you tell me you're into cigars as well?
I used to smoke.
Yeah, not anymore. What happened to you?
I became a Christian. Don't
no.
become a Christian. You might have to quit that. No, I'm kidding.
No, the Bible doesn't say anything.
I love the
tobacco.
smell of the burn of a cigar from a blindness perspective. I mean, like a cherry cigar, just different, the earthy smell of it. It's, the
best. No, but seriously though, returning to the Bible, what do you think? Do Christians smoke? I believe Christians smoke a lot.
Oh yeah, there's a lot. I mean, smoking's not going to keep you out of heaven. It's just going to get you there quicker. That's all. Yeah. But I
listen,
just want to say,
if in the Bible it says that there are cigars in heaven, trust me, tell me what you do. I mean, you know, I'll cut it all out. I'll cut this whole atheistic, agnostic, philosophical bullshit out of my life immediately.
No, but on a serious note, dude, I think it's great that you approach this and really research it, because a lot of people don't. Like, a lot of people that I've spoken to throughout my life that hate Christians or hate Christianity and don't want anything to do with it, it's because of a few people that they've met that were, you know, people that were to be Christians, but screaming and yelling at them, and they're going to hell and all this. And so it's a shame to base an opinion of Christianity on two people who are unstable. Because when you're really a Christian, certainly people have strong opinions, and there are debates. But it's one thing to do that, and it's an entirely different matter to be screaming and yelling and shoving Bible scriptures down people's throats. I mean, that's just not...
that's what Jehovah's Witnesses do oftentimes.
Yes, right? So, I mean, that's like with my Muslim friends. I mean, we can sit down and intellectually discuss the differences of our religion maturely. And it's fascinating. I mean, they've taught me more about the Islamic religion than anything else, and I've taught them more about Christianity.
Yeah.
And they never would have heard about it.
You know, a conversation of this sort is possible when life is not at stake. A life of a human being is not at stake. You will never see me having the very same sort of a conversation with even the best Russian civilian. You know, never. You know, that's just you know, that's just below me. You know, that's
no one can ever understand what you've been through other than people.
And by the way, I ain't been through a lot. You know, listen, what I've been through is compared to what the combatant are going through on a permanent, on minute basis. Yeah, it's like, I don't want to diminish people's suffering, basically.
Exactly.
Right? But yeah, I mean, Jesus, I mean, these drones are flying above my house nearly every night. It's still nothing compared to what people experience on the front line. So you know, so have you ever considered the probability of religion being a coping mechanism?
Well, yes, and that brings up a great point. And hear my thoughts on this, and I want to hear yours when I'm done sharing. Fair enough?
Sure.
It's been my experience as an exorcist, and just in general, but there's a pattern. I'm a retired computer programmer, so I'm very analytical. I use a lot of analysis, like you. So I look for patterns when I work with these clients. And here's a pattern that I see. In childhood, there is something traumatic that's happened in the child's life. This is the start of the pattern. For some, it's the father leaves and the child feels rejected and abandoned. So that's one pattern. Another pattern is that they're molested. Right. So, that's a pattern. I'm talking in the family, okay? So there's these patterns, alcoholism, right? So there's these patterns, these traumatic patterns that happen in childhood. Their emotional needs are not met. Okay, so that's step one of this pattern. Step two is they're not trained how to handle life by the parents, whether it's a single parent, a married couple, or even an adopted parents. They don't train the children how to handle life. So that's the second part of this pattern. First part is some sort of trauma, unmet emotional need. Second pattern is they're not trained in childhood or teenage years on how to handle life and what's good, what's not good. So there's not a lot of training. Step three of the pattern. Now they got to figure life out themselves. Okay? They have a blatant void in their life of trauma. Okay? So this is where the crossroads comes for all of us. How are we going to fill that void? For some, it's vodka.
Hell yeah.
And it's being tough. I can handle life. Anything, I'll never cry again. A real man doesn't cry. Give me the vodka. Well, that's how they handle that void on the inside, going back to the trauma. For others, it's I'm going to have sex with a bunch of people to find love because I've never had love. So I sleep with this guy or that girl. And on the pattern goes of a broken relationship. So they're reaching out, to your word, coping mechanisms. And for another person, the void is filled with spirituality. And sometimes that spirituality can be, practices like Wicca, crystals, psychic consultations, tarot card readings.
Astrology.
So they do astrology, right? So they do all of these things trying to heal themselves. And a lot of those practices point towards self. Law of attraction. I'm going to attract something to me.
Yeah, right.
Mindfulness meditation. You're focused on yourself and destroying your soul and letting everything go, right? So it's very self-centered way of healing yourself, right? Okay. So then the void that I've chose, because I tried the drinking, I tried the drugs.
Let's go.
I tried the girls. Woo! Got in lots of trouble with them women. I'm done. Okay? And so finally I'm like, I got to fill this void somehow. What is that? And that is Jesus Christ. And for me personally, that's the only thing that's really brought me peace. So all of us use a crutch. There's not a single one of us that don't use a crutch to make it through life. It just depends on what crutch do you want to use and how well is that working for you. Okay, that was my comment on Christianity.
Okay, so you say that you basically chose consciously to rely on this crutch, right?
Yes.
Well, that's an honest answer. I imagine you would agree with the fact that some people would probably come up with a different version, saying that it kind of happened with them miraculously, or they were chosen, or they became kind of to lucid and to awaken or something like that. Is that much different from what you just basically said, how you consciously and almost rationally, logically you became aware of the necessity to rely on something, and that's what filled the gap?
Yeah, I think what you're asking is, can people do this without rationalization and just be like, hey, I feel enlightened and I was called to this?
I just don't imagine a lot of religious people saying something like, yeah, I chose it because I needed something in my life for some reason.
Actually, a lot of them do.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, a lot of them do, because the crutches that they've used in life were not working. So Christianity was, here's a prime example. I think it was this year I opened up on my website where people can get like a free 20-minute consultation where I'll talk with them to see if it might be a fit to work, with them. And this ties into our point here about choosing. I just had a appointment booked for a free 20-minute consultation from a young woman, probably close to your age, Bohdan. And she says here, one of the questions is like, why, are you seeking an exorcism, or, something along these lines. And she said, because I've been a psychic for 10 years and it's not helping. And I want to become a Christian. And I want to see if I become a Christian, I believe I'm going to need an exorcism. This is why I want to talk with you, so you could help me understand the transition from being a psychic to a Christian. This was done through rational thought. So I don't think that, certainly there are some people that are like, hey, I had a visitation from God and I'm a Christian. But I think most people try enough things in life that don't bring healing and comfort. So not everybody winds up a Christian, obviously, but a lot do through rational thought. Yeah.
Now, do you think the efficacy of a given coping mechanism always indicates its objective truth?
Meaning?
Well, I'm trying to ask if you would agree that just because a certain coping mechanism in life proves to be effective for a certain person, right, it might necessarily be objectively correct. I wonder if this thought has crossed your mind.
Like, in other words, Christianity might be okay for me, but not others.
Christianity might be okay for you, effective, but it might not be right, objectively, if the word objectively even exists here. In other words, that it may not represent, the events from 2000 years ago, for example, and as many secular people would argue this day, is not a reliable framework to operate currently. So yeah, just if you think that...
Understood.
Because,
Understood. Yeah. Because I've seen the replication of people's lives being reset drastically from the inside out by following the framework. I have enough evidence to say confidently, for me, this is truth. I see the evidence. If there was no evidence of people's lives changing and they're surrendering their life to Christ and they're following his teachings, but nothing gets better. But it's not only that it gets better, but I've seen heroin addicts where the heroin stops instantly, the addiction stops. I've seen people's marriages restored. I've seen people come off of the streets who were homeless and become a productive citizen, in society. I could go on and on of seeing these drastic changes in people's lives. And so I think the evidence is for me personally shows that, and if you study, like, look, we all watch YouTube, go on and look at the archaeological digs and discoveries that they found that directly correlate to the Bible, to exact passages in the Bible. There's tons of archaeological evidence outside of just, the evidence of people's lives. So, I mean, it's all about, for me personally, finding enough evidence to say this is rational enough for me to say this merits my attention.
Now, the examples of people who managed to rebuild themselves, do you believe it was done to them directly by God, or it was done to them by themselves by fully, wholeheartedly believing in something?
I believe it was done by God, because what happens is when you surrender your life to Christ, the Bible teaches, and again, this is Christian doctrine, so I appreciate you listening and entertaining me here, but the Bible teaches that when you surrender your life to Christ, His Spirit comes inside of your heart, and His Spirit, which is called the Holy Spirit, will strengthen you and guide you and change you from the inside out. It gives you the power to stop doing X, Y, and Z. It gives you the power to forgive the people who have abused and traumatized you. So, like, we can't do this on our own. Like, there's no way you're going to forgive Russia on your own. Never. Right? But if the Spirit of God comes inside of you and His Spirit is forgiveness, He gives you the strength and courage to do that.
Well, it better be a strong spirit, I tell you. That spirit better be very loud. I'm going to have to have a one-on-one conversation with Jesus Himself about that.
I'll give you an example of my own personal life. So my wife leaves me for a younger man. She hit kind of the midlife crisis, kind of that type of thing.
Women, man, huh?
She cougared him. She's older than him, so we call it being cougar in America, yeah. Right? So anyhow, and so this guy is an opportunist. He leaves with my wife. They destroy the family. I'm an alcoholic for 5 years. I mean, just living in misery and pain and all this. I become a Christian. I go through my own exorcism sessions. And inside of me, the Holy Spirit, that's the Spirit of God, began to give me, this is crazy, forgiveness toward both of them, and also compassion, understanding that they are very broken people, as am I, and this is why they did this. Now, this does not come from me. This is supernatural from the Spirit of God. Now, check this out. This gets better. So, my son asks me, he was in band, and he had a big ceremony where we had to go to a big, huge football stadium. And he says to me, would you mind if Mom and her, I would keep their names out of the picture, but if Mom and her new husband walk with me across the football field rather than just you and Mom.
Oh.
So Mom and her new husband can be on my right, and Dad, you could be on my left. Would you be comfortable with that? And this is the man who destroyed my marriage, had sex with my wife, coaching my kids in soccer. I'm blind. I can't do it. Right?
It's crazy.
And the Spirit of God inside of me gave me the ability through forgiveness to say yes. And so here I am walking up to this man that destroyed my marriage, and I'm shaking his hand and saying, it's nice to meet you. I'm looking forward to, walking across the field with you. No resentment, no hatred, no anger. Now, before being a Christian, I would have kicked his butt. Well,
that's what I'm thinking right now. I'm sorry, but I can't stop.
Exactly.
I can't stop fantasizing what I would do to that motherfucker
but this
right
is
in that field.
So we walk across the field, and I remember thinking to myself as I'm walking across this field, this is evidence that Christianity is real. Now, I got one better. There's one past that with the wife and the new husband. So my ex-wife has a bad injury. It's very bad. She's got poison in her body. They might have to take her leg off. The new husband has a very bad injury where he has his right bicep ripped off. So he's got to go through surgery. So these people are both in bed, incapacitated. Okay? The local church, this is interesting, the Christian church that my wife belonged to, no one even brought them a meal. No one checked on them. No one called, right? These are Christians, right? No, they're not Christians. If they are Christians, they would have done it. So I'm standing there. I got my kids. Daddy, you going to make us dinner? And I said, yeah. I said, and so I started making dinner. And I had this thought inside of me. Say, make that for your ex-wife and the new husband. I said, okay. Now there's no anger. There's no resentment. So I make this big meal, double the portion. I looked at my oldest son who's driving. I said, take this to mom and her new husband. And my son was like, okay. Now, my children are seeing this where I'm serving, right? Can you imagine the impact of this on my children, seeing their father do this? Okay.
Wow.
But what you have to understand is that this isn't the Father doing, this isn't me doing, this is the Holy Spirit inside of me. I'm not faking this. I'm not making this up. This is supernatural forgiveness. And I sent the meal over. I was the only person that made them a meal. Okay? Now, what's my point? This is what the evidence is for me. Right? I can honestly tell you, I do not have hatred in my heart. I don't have resentment, anything toward that man or toward my ex-wife, even to the point, which, by the way, after I think it was 7 years, he left her, which I knew would happen because you can't destroy a marriage and think that you can be a Christian and God's going to bless that. No, it doesn't work that way. What you sow, you reap in life, whether you're a Christian or not. So
that man also claims to be Christian.
No, he did not.
He doesn't.
But my ex-wife claimed to be through the whole thing. So he leaves her, and I'm cordial with her through this. Initially, I was not. When I was a raging alcoholic, dude, it was not pretty. But it was when I became a Christian and went through the exorcism that this change happened in me. And then to the point, Bohdan, where I was talking to my ex-wife one day, and she was sharing some of the traumas that she had in life, in her childhood. And I told her, and again, this was God's Spirit inside of me. This wasn't me. I'm not thinking this when I'm talking to her. This just a kind of like just an impression inside of me. And I said, you need an exorcism. And I said, would you mind if I put you through one? And she said, no, I would love for you to. Are you sure you would want to? I said, absolutely. Let's do it right now. So I put her through an exorcism. How does that happen? How does a person go from a raging alcoholic drinking a gallon of Captain Morgan rum a week, chewing tobacco, vaping, smoking marijuana, right?
You were chewing tobacco? Shit.
Oh, yeah, chewing tobacco, smoking cigarettes, all that. And then go from all of that rage and hatred to somebody that can do what I just explained. That is the supernatural power of the Holy Spirit inside of
so that's a clearly one hell of a story, you know, clearly something quite something to contemplate and mull over. Do you think an all-loving God would have within his abilities, within his power, a power to make you who you've eventually become without having you go through those breaking, excruciating emotional and physical turmoils, right? Those turbulent periods when you had to experience it and you had to lose yourself. You would imagine that an omnipotent and omniscient being, right, in a perfect world would have some kind of way to turn you who you've become eventually without you experiencing those initial painful stages. Would that be possible, you think?
Perhaps, because some of that, I think, here's what I would say to that. Sure, it's possible. But I believe that having gone through these situations in my life, it has given me tremendous ability to connect with the people that I serve through the compassion and love of Christ through this exorcism ministry. Had I not gone through this, I may not have been able to empathetically connect with them, maybe intellectually. But there's one thing that people love about working with me, and that is the compassion and the no judgment, right? Because of what I've went through. So I think, is it possible? Yes. But I think in my specific case, it was essential for me to really understand the trauma to a certain extent. I mean, the people I work with, they've been through way more trauma than what I've been through. But another analogy is, look, you lift weights, you work out, okay? The only way you're going to get strong is through strain. And I think that same concept applies with Christianity and going through hardship in life. I think without hardship, we cannot grow to trust God. And I don't think that we can grow spiritually, to be more like him. Because when we go through these straining times, we're going to depend on something. And for many, like I mentioned earlier, it's the vodka, it's the men, it's the women. But for me, I tried all that. I'm like, here, God, you're it, right? So going through that strain causes me to rely on God to help me get through it. And in that, there is a beauty, because through that pressure, through that pain, comes great spiritual growth and great understanding to help other people.
Yeah. See, well, and then there is this always this phrase, God works in mysterious ways, right? So,
I don't think his ways are mysterious at all.
See, you've touched upon exercise and fitness, lifting, training. It's undeniably effective way to prepare yourself for different arduous times in your life. By exercising, you inevitably become more disciplined. People who do not apply discipline in their training, and by discipline, I don't mean just, lifting the weight when it gets really heavy. I mean, showing up. I mean, rescheduling your plans. I mean, moving your shit during the day around.
Making it priority. Yes.
Right. So learning how to do that. First of all, let me turn on the heater because I'm freezing.
Sure.
Yeah. So making that your priority inevitably and clearly teaches you lots of lessons, which will later in life become unbelievably valuable. Now, I don't know if I had an opportunity, if I was talking to God and God tells me, we can make you disciplined and prepared for life, and you will have the ability to overcome a lot of issues in your life, a lot of problems in your life. Even if we skip that part of training and exercising and pushing yourself and waking up when you don't have to and go for a run when you don't want to, when it's raining, when the weather is dog shit, I don't know if I would refuse, to be honest, because it's like eventually at the end of the day, you still have that result. If we're talking about this very hypothetical, imaginary situation, talking to God, that gives you the chance, that gives you the ability, right? And he tells me, here's, I snap my fingers and you become who you want to become if you exercise for 10 years like that, strenuously. I don't know if I would refuse it, because what I will have if I train for 10 years. I can have it right now, and perhaps it might come off as rather selfish, but if we think about just the outcome, the pure result of one opportunity, I train for 10 years and I get result B. And second opportunity, God snaps his fingers and I still have result B, the very analogous result. You see, I don't know if that would be a very bad probability for me. And we should also consider that, right, it's within God's ability, right? It's clearly within the most powerful creature's ability, right?
Understood. And here's what I'll say with you about that is God's, in my case, taking me through these situations, there's purpose behind it. And it's when a person becomes a Christian, they essentially say, my life's not my own. It's in your hands, Christ. What you want me to do for your kingdom, for your purpose, I'm willing to do it. Even if that means death, I'm willing to do it. Now, bear in mind, most Christians are supposed to express the love of God to people and be kind and, and help and, these sorts of things. And not everybody's emotionally well. So keep that in mind, when you meet Christians that are crazy. I mean, these are people who haven't gone through processing their trauma. They haven't gone through therapy. So they're using Christianity as their way of dealing with pain, and they're in a healing process. So if you meet somebody that's an absolute idiot, keep this in mind. Oh, they're not healthy yet. They're not well.
The same could be said about representatives of any groups.
Exactly. So, but swinging back to I don't know how I got off on that, but swinging back to your point, the discipline from God is for his purposes and to prepare us for our God-given destiny. So when you become a Christian, you have a purpose. It's not just, hey, I'm a Christian and I can live my life any way I want. When I die, I go to heaven. It's, hey, I'm a Christian. I got to live in this world temporarily. So yeah, I'm going to work. I'm going to have a job. I'm going to pay my bills. But more importantly, God, what do you want me to do for your kingdom to help promote it? So in my case, it's exorcism. And so the things I went through prepared me for that. So it's not just going through pain and suffering for the sake of going through pain and suffering. It's to help build you for the purpose that God has for you in your life.
Okay. Now, let's take a little bit, let's stay on the same track, by the way. It's pretty connected. What I'm about to bring is very connected to basically the necessity of suffering, right? I think we can unite this last, 20 minutes chat about what we've been said about this necessity of suffering, how arbitrary, how necessary this suffering is for the final good. And by the way, it can also be sort of narrowed down to the statement that good is impossible without bad, right? Which is a common thread that could be, perceived in religious texts and philosophical books and even psychological, I believe. And we've talked about it. We've talked about it, but for those 5 lucky people listening or watching this podcast, it might also be of usage. By the way, lucky if I'm lucky, lucky on a good day. Lucky if I don't fuck up my hashtags.
Well, for those 5 lucky people, like this video so other 5 lucky people can see it. Okay.
Yeah, let's spread that.
Help Bohdan out.
Fuck yeah. Let's take over YouTube. With my face probably. So the thing is, if people go through suffering and pain, most certainly lots of them are later able to extract certain advantages, and that's good. Once you've experienced something like that, well, if you mean to continue staying a functional, decent human being, you better make up your mind about what happened, make conclusions, move on, try not to repeat same mistake. What the hell is about animals? And that's been asked. I remember us having a conversation via emails about it. So a potential situation, right? I'm going to repeat that. You probably got tired. Maybe you cringed at that when you read it, or AI read that to you. But suppose it a hypothetical gazelle running away, from maybe a predator, or maybe just running away due to its stupid nature. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And then there's a sharp branch of tree, and that gazelle blindly and unawareingly just pokes itself on that tree, on that branch of tree. It's bleeding for hours upon hours and hours, experiencing agony, unbelievable level of pain, right? And later it dies. Now, wouldn't you imagine that there must be eventually some sort of conclusion? And my point of contention here is, why does a situation like that get through God? Why does God allow that, for that gazelle to experience these levels of agony, if the eventual result is death, and in fact not even being sent to heaven, as far as I remember, because according to Christianity, correct me if I'm wrong, animals don't go to heaven, even because animals don't have a soul or something like that, right? So, but maybe I'm wrong. So why should a gazelle experience this agony before it dies?
I mean, that's a good question. I don't have a direct answer for that, myself personally. Mm-hmm. I do know that the Bible does say that the earth groans for the return of Christ, meaning that the earth is dying too, and everything in it. We're dying, the animals are dying, like death. Death is, in the Christian religion, death was never meant to be. And so this is why God is wanting people to become a Christian, so that eventually he's going to restore his kingdom where there is no death. Now, I know that doesn't directly answer your question about the gazelle, but I don't have an answer for that.
But it's interesting, right? I mean, it's
I mean, the same thing.
Chalk it off to irrelevance, because animals, they don't get a lot of what would you say?
Well, I mean, God, in a Christian worldview, God made the animals, and in the very beginning in Genesis, God gave Adam dominion over the animals, and dominion doesn't mean abuse. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It just meant to kind of care for them. Dominion, sure. To care for these animals. So God loves the animals; He made them. They're fascinating, especially Chuck.
Oh, hell yeah. That's my favorite one. Listen, that's a tricky bastard right there. I just returned before recording it from a walk. The funny thing about this dog is, that time to time, it just enters this crazy, playful, messy mood when it just attacks me. I receive a lot of friendly fire, man. I'm telling you, my clothes are all messed up. Jesus, like it's walking, and then all of a sudden his rear paws get kind of pressed a little bit, so he takes this playful position, and he starts growling. And when that shit happens, the problem is that I don't know what the hell to do in that moment, because the fucking ChatGPT told me, oh, it's because your lovely dog Chuck wants to play. So the best case scenario here, you just remain frozen, basically. You don't do shit, because the dog is supposed to understand that the owner is not in the mood for play, but that there's a big fucking problem when ChatGPT doesn't relate to, because it's goddamn algorithm, whatever it is. When my ass is standing frozen, it doesn't stop Chuck. That son of a bitch keeps attacking me from all kinds of angles.
He thinks you're saying, bring it on.
So I don't know what the hell to do. I don't know. I got to talk to a sinologist, to these guys who specialize in, behavior like that. Because listen, 90% of our walks are lovely. But then there is this 10% when my elbow... Listen, yesterday that son of a bitch reached my nipple. Would you imagine?
Oh, my. Oh, my.
Left nipple still hurts me.
Wow. He's not playing around.
Hell no.
I mean, dogs are awesome. I mean...
the best. Amazing.
The best. Yeah. I mean, they're even used for, like, I don't know if it's like this in Ukraine, but in America, they'll use these dogs for, like, people who have real bad anxiety. Like, they'll just...
I've heard that, yeah.
And they bring these dogs with them and walk around, and they have to have papers to, like, show, because they bring them in and out of restaurants.
Yeah, the dog's got to be certified,
Yeah,
my bastard won't be certified. You kidding me? Mm-hmm. He'll be adding to anxiety.
Yeah, so it's...
You better keep that animal from sick people, because they ain't getting
Let's not bring Chuck to a nursing home. Do you guys have nursing homes?
Yeah, it would be a disaster, bro. People would be dropping like flies. I'm a strong, healthy individual. I can't deal with it.
Oh,
I'm gonna tell you even worse story. Listen, so I have a big heart for animals. It's playing against me as of recent. My mentality is going down because of that. So 1 year ago, we'd taken a cat from the street, a lovely kitten, grew up right now, 1 year old, big, fat, just as a cat should be. Now, a month ago, we picked up another one. It's not like we wanted, we just rescued it. We're returning from a supermarket, me, my girlfriend, and a fucking dog, and everything was going down. And then I kept hearing this, meowing, this cat noise all the time. So what do you know? I mean, we can't leave it. That's not a proper Christian behavior, right?
Yeah,
we're good Christians. Correct. We're supposed to rescue those cats, right?
Yeah.
So we take that little bastard, a tiny black, pretty much kitten. Man, listen, if you were in a physical proximity, I would need to resort to your services. Honestly, that little shit, it's a running, shitting devil. I'm telling you, all it does, it just eats and shits. Nothing else. Eats, runs around, and shits. And it's very cordial. It's very connected to us because whenever we go, any room we open, that bitch always jumps there. So, and purring all the time. And I appreciate it. I love it. I love cats who are friendly. I don't like those, angry, arrogant cats who are like, don't touch me. Hell, get out of here.
They put their chin up in the air and walk like this, walking away from you like they're better than you.
Middle finger shitting on my face when I sleep. That's what that little bitch does. So, I mean, this compassion, this sympathy for animals that need rescue. Man, it's against me. It's turned against me. I don't know if
that's a wonderful attribute, man. I mean, you're dealing with loving animals and
see, the less I like people, the more I like animals. And I've been noticing this common thread with people, to be honest. It's not, for some reason, the more faith I keep having, the less faith I have in people, the more faith I have in animals. And that's what brought me, that's kind of what initiated this whole digging into why animals are suffering, in world general. Because coming from a meat eater right now, I'm a meat eater, I'm not a vegan. Coming from a meat eater who is innerly conflicted about that. Morally, in my opinion, what we are doing on daily basis to animals cannot be anyhow justified. I just can't, and I myself have single-handedly contributed to the biggest chicken genocide in this world. These muscles, this machine needs protein, but the problem with people who go to supermarket and they purchase chicken fillet, they don't know what happened to that chicken. Most of them, they don't know what the hell the chicken had to go through. And just because we are sentient, like we are conscious, we can come up with math and philosophy, that makes us all of a sudden better. Like a chicken doesn't feel pain as much as a human does. But if you imagine separating a mother from its baby and then feeding the baby who had been separated from it just for food for the mother, it's and impregnating that mother just for the purposes of, it's insane. The lower you go into that rabbit hole, the less you appreciate how people have turned.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I love your heart and compassion around that, man. I mean, and a lot of people don't have that toward animals. They just don't, and they abuse them. They're terrible to them. My ex-wife's a huge animal lover. She was a rescuer of animals. All my children
that's
love
a big
animals.
No for me. If a chick is not into animals, if generally a human is not into animals, I'm dealing with some sort of potential serial.
Well, they say the best judge of character are two things: children and animals.
Well, I have a problem with the first one. Yeah.
If children, they say, are afraid of an adult and an animal's afraid, then that's a good character judge.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I sometimes get myself in trouble online when I'm bored and I don't know better to do. I go to these posts online when people are asking this peculiar question: who would you save, your dog or a stranger? And I'm always on the side of the dog, unironically. We may disagree with you, but listen, this is, even though Chuck is giving me a lot of tough times, I'm still saving that furry bastard. Are you kidding me? You put in one hand a random homeless fuck from the street, especially if that random fuck speaks Russian, even though he's a Ukrainian, and versus my dear boy. Holy shit. I'm going for Chuck all day. And people have a problem with that. And then people tell me, oh, what if it is you in the place of that homeless guy? I say, if it's me on the place of a homeless guy, I won't have any problem with guys who choose their dogs. I'm going. That's it. If I gotta go, I gotta go. That's it. If somebody chose me over their pet, fine. I'm dying. Fine. That's my logic, and people hate
back to your point about like you're finding yourself loving toward animals and less faith in humanity, as you age and as time goes on. I mean, how could you not when you're in war?
Fuck yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, and by the way, there's never been no war. There's never been no war. That's what actually Albert Camus said. And I know you hate that guy for some reason because he couldn't decide between killing himself and drinking tea or coffee, right? Mm-hmm. And in my estimation, it's a perfectly great debate to have in mind. But he said, in modern days, and, modern days for him and modern days for us are apparently not the same. But he said, if in modern days you ever allow yourself a little happiness, you almost are looked down upon. You are criticized immediately because there are starving children, there are genocides happening all over the world, there are ongoing wars. If your country is not in war, that doesn't mean that shit doesn't happen in another part of the planet. So happiness has become almost a bad tone. A human is not even allowed any bit of happiness. And by the way, I kind of agree with that point of view because what is happiness if not some sort of state of ignorance at the end of the day? You just close your eyes to some things and you allow yourself to be, arrogantly happy, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, swinging this back to Christianity just for a minute. Happiness is fleeting because you can be happy right now. You have Chuck, but if someone kidnaps Chuck, you're not happy.
Yeah, for sure.
You're happy now you got a girlfriend. She says, I don't want to be with you, and leaves, you're not happy. So happiness is very conditional. But in Christianity, back to this concept of the Holy Spirit coming inside of a person when you surrender to Christ, he has attributes, and one of those attributes is joy. And that's different than happiness because it's a spiritual gift from God inside of a person and I've met them, that are going through very traumatic things in life, tough times. I mean, I've met people in wheelchairs that, had MS, severe medical condition, going to be dead in 2 years, and are full of joy from the inside, from the Holy Spirit, this attribute. And that joy stays present in the midst of trials, difficulty, good times, bad times. It's steady. Not saying that people don't feel stressed, not saying that they don't have bad days, but there's this internal joy that is an attribute of God. And so I just wanted to share that to point that out, that there is a difference from a Christian worldview of happiness and joy.
Yeah, happiness is it's an interesting topic. One thing that I've also been hearing from people in respects to perhaps a subtle criticism, or perhaps not even that subtle, because in my opinion it's a serious matter, is the man fall or human fall. What's it called properly in the Bible when Eve picked that apple? The fall of human, right? What's the
the fall, of mankind.
Now, so what I've been hearing is that basically the understanding of good and evil came to us, to Adam and Eve, after we have been fallen, right? After we fell, right? Now, so the criticism that a lot of people express is that initially they weren't able to distinguish good from bad, since that notion of good and bad hadn't yet been instilled in them, right? It came to us only after the apple was picked. And
well, it wasn't an apple, they just said fruit.
A fruit. Okay. Yeah, I wonder why I keep saying an apple. Shit. Is that because
I said apple the other day and someone said, Justin, it wasn't an apple, it's fruit. I'm like,
really? Just a fruit. And we don't know what kind of fruit. That's kind of important, isn't it? I gotta know what to stay away from, You know me, I'm falling low.
Better watch eating them apples. Keep them away from Chuck, too. We don't know what's going to happen to Chuck if he eats an apple.
No, he's very aristocratic in his food habits. Just as me. Yeah, that's out of a bitch.
But go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. So
it's, you would imagine that to distinguish good from bad, you would have had to have certain, understanding initially of what it was. Have you ever heard this point of criticism that they couldn't distinguish initially just because it wasn't almost like bestowed upon them what's good and bad?
No. Like in Christian theology, it is that God created them without this understanding of evil because he only wanted them to be connected to him. He made them for relationship. God's all about relationship. He's about family. He made Adam, he made Eve. He says, be fruitful and multiply. So he's like, let's have a big family. I love you guys. This is what it's about. And so he says, you can do whatever you want, but don't eat from that tree of good and evil. Because as soon as you eat it, you'll die. So how did they die? Well, they eat the apple, and then that's when Satan was able to, change their understanding. If that makes sense. This is what theology teaches.
So you're saying that when God said, don't eat that apple, do you think that meant conveying certain knowledge of or ability to distinguish good from bad just by commanding them not to do something?
Because, he said you'll die.
Yeah.
Right? That's what he said. He said, if you eat it, you'll die. And what that meant was to be separated from him. But again, I enjoy talking and
right.
Let's talk, but I'm no theologian.
Yeah, but that's like majority of this podcast. Do you listen to any Christians on YouTube, any public figures? This guy, Andrew Wilson, if you've heard, has been prominent.
I do not. My kids occasional and dude, I'm so busy in my exorcism ministry that I don't have time. And I don't say that I'm a worker, like I'm retired, but I'm not retired. So, I'm putting in a solid 30 plus hours a week roughly in this. Now, sometimes not as much. I mean, if I want to get up one day and I'm like, I'm not doing this today, I'm going to take a break. I can.
What age did you retire?
I retired last July.
Yeah. And
so that puts me at 52.
That's not 60 at least. Because, the probability of retiring at 60 genuinely scares me. And I haven't reached my 30s. And people don't get it.
I was excited. I was excited to retire to be able to do this, to just focus on this ministry and help people. But, You
think you would have worked longer if not for the exorcism practices?
I don't think so. One of the main factors of me retiring was, I went through a kidney transplant. I don't know if you remember that or not. After that, my energy level has not been the same. I mean, you're going from 2 kidneys filtering toxins out of your body down to 1. And so it does a good job, but it's not going to filter out toxins as much as 2 kidneys. So you're tired, so you always have this little bit of level of fatigue to you. Right. And so I just, the deadlines, the pressure, being that computer programmer.
Man, it's the worst.
It was too much.
Holy shit, you expanded. So what year you said you retired? How long ago was that?
Last year.
Last year, wow. Wow. So when we recorded, you were still employed, right?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so the pain, the drag that it takes people to just spend 8 hours sitting on their ass staring at this crazy screen.
And the screen, and then all the fires, like, oh my God, we have an error. There's a bug. God, we got to fix. All that type of stuff, and just
that can't be good. That can't be good. I keep talking to my students, asking them about when they plan to retire, and some guys they are genuinely bewildered at me even asking a question like that. What do you mean?
I think, don't quote me on this, but I'm almost certain, and you'll have to fact check me on this, but I'm almost certain in America they've raised the retirement age, I think, to 70.
Holy shit. That's insane. 70. Man, I think here it's as high as 63 or 65. Damn.
Dude, can you imagine?
Yeah, you better strap yourself
at 70 years old, you might have 5, 10, maybe 15 years left to live.
Yeah, if you're lucky.
It's like, hey, thanks for all the taxes. Enjoy the rest of your life.
Damn. Well, man, in defense, maybe not in defense, but to kind of equalize the matters here, I think the retirement, I'm sure the retirement age is not 60 here, though, not 70, though lots of bastards are working even when they're fucking 80. I'm telling you. Back when I was a couple of years back, I still had that dentist lady. That lady, she must have been 100 years old. I'm promising you, that lady must have seen dinosaurs walk the earth.
Wow.
You know, and she was a dentist. In fact, a pretty good dentist. She was
you guys have like, in America, we have this thing called Uber. Do you have that
hell
there?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm banned on Uber. On Uber particularly, I don't know what the hell happened. We have a lot of similar services. Yeah, some bastard banned me.
Okay, so, I mean, some of my Uber drivers that picked me up are 75.
Crazy.
I said, "Why are you retired?" He goes,
"Yeah, what are you doing
This
here?"
is so funny, dude. I was in Florida on vacation with my kids, and this Uber guy picks us up. He's 75 years old, and we're driving to a restaurant, and I said, "You're retired, right?" He said, "Oh yeah." I said, "Well, why would you Uber?"
Yeah.
He says, "To get away from my old lady."
Oh, hell yeah.
His wife.
Yeah, for sure. Listen,
he goes, "I don't want to be trapped in the house with her all the time. I got to get out."
Men would literally do anything just to run away from that one bad wife. Listen, a bad wife is worse than any amount of demon possessing anybody. I'm pretty sure about that. You know?
Yeah, for him to be Ubering, because most men retired enjoy their wives and want to do stuff with them. But this
some of them retired, they do not enjoy their wife, and they are pushed to such a verge that they'll be ready to kiss their male friends just to prove that. You know? Holy shit. Do you hear sometimes from those Uber drivers this fake myth stories that is just their side hustle, it's just nothing but a hobby, and in fact they actually run a huge factory and they have cryptocurrency? Because this is like every second Uber driver here, I tell you.
Yes,
it's either conspiracy theory or shitting on the government or bragging and boasting left and right how rich and well off they are. Well, in fact, come on, bitch, I know what you're doing.
Yes,
I see how many reviews you have on Uber, right? For you to have so many reviews, you can't work for 1 hour a day. You work your ass off. You clock in 12 hours every day.
Yes. Too funny.
Man. I hate cars, by the way. You know, I don't like cars. I don't like cars. I don't have
I'm looking forward to getting one that, I don't know if we never said this, but people watching this, they may not even know. Well, did we mention I was blind?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I believe so.
But what I'm looking forward to is getting one that drives automatically.
Oh, man.
And I can't wait, dude. And I told my kids, they're like, "Dad, when we graduate university, we'll buy you one." I said, "Perfect." And I said, "But I want to wait until there's like 13 deaths from people." People going off of bridges, smashing into walls.
Well, listen, if I'm in the same town with you, you better drop me a text when you drive, and I'm staying home.
Well, the thing is, I'm like, dude, they got to work the bugs out. Like, for me to get into a completely, I mean, they have them now here in cabs in cities, like taxis.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah. It's been happening for quite a couple of years now in the USA.
So now that's a good, like, safe way of developing that AI and honing it in, and eventually,
man, AI is another rabbit hole. You know, we can get into AI as well, because that shit is pretty unhinged sometimes. Have you, on the topic of self-driving cars, have you ever seen? I don't know if I should apologize by asking you if you've seen
never. No. I'm not sensitive like that. I prefer people talking to me in that way.
Yes,
go ahead.
Naturally, right? Normally, natural, right? So there's this video when guys were in I think it was Tesla, one of those goddamn self-driving cars, and they were going through a cemetery. And there is this display on when you see what's going on around you, right, on the display. And on the display, when there was the territory of the cemetery, all of a sudden there were figures of people appearing, popping, backing up, like that, just appearing and disappearing. So the guy pulls up. I think he stops the car. I think, if I'm not mistaken, goes out of the car just to check what's going on. There's nobody, just graves, just a graveyard.
Yeah.
And he jumps back in. So I'm thinking it's either that autistic son of a bitch Elon Musk, doing some weird shit, just pranking drivers, right? Or shit, I don't know. I mean, maybe Tesla detects something.
It's so hard now because people can make up so much with AI.
For sure, yeah. Maybe that whole video is fake, to be honest.
I mean, dude, if you want to get into AI, we can get into AI, because I can pull that into the Christian arena and get your head spinning everywhere. Yeah.
I've had religions being created including AI. You heard about that? I think a buddy of mine sent me today the news that I think in some countries they somehow initiate this almost entire amalgamations of religions that are powered and run by AI, and some people, according to the news, they even pray to it.
No, I know, but check this out. This is interesting. So in Christianity, it's taught that the war in the Middle East, that the Antichrist is going to come and bring a 7-year peace treaty to it. So this is what's taught in the Bible, in the book of Revelation, in the book of Daniel, all these types of concepts, okay? But I want to integrate AI into this. This is fascinating. So the Antichrist is supposed to come bring a 7-year peace treaty in the Middle East. The third temple is going to be built by the Jewish people, which, by the way, that's in the making. They're going to be building that, I don't know when, but very soon. And so this guy's going to come on the scene and say, hey, I'm going to fix this. Here's a 7-year peace treaty, and everyone signs off on it. And he's going to rule the entire world. And so the question becomes, how is one individual man going to rule the entire world as this Antichrist? Which, by the way, after 3.5 years, according to the Christian text, he's going to break that peace treaty and just start mass executing the Jewish people and coming after Christians as well, and on it goes. My emphasis sharing this isn't necessarily the Christian text. It's how AI fits into global domination. And so if you got this one world ruler, how's that going to work? Well, think of it. AI is one possibility, because China already has in place, cameras, AI, face recognition. They have a societal point system in place where, for example, if I do something wrong, the cameras, the AI, and everything will pick up on that, and your social score will be docked. So then maybe, for example, you can't use the subway because you were bad.
Yeah.
Right. So they already have that perfected.
Oh, they've been having it for years. Yeah.
Oh, for years. So now place that globally in every country, and AI, and I'm talking quantum AI, right? Like this super fast stuff, is now monitoring all this. And so that this one world order guy has all of this available pretty much instantly.
Now the question is, who's going to be that one guy?
And that's what is interesting, because in the Christian community, they do believe that it's going to come, some believe from the European Union, based on scripture text. I've heard another person say a few months back that it could be someone Middle Eastern, that comes there too. And it could be someone that might even be Muslim that brings peace to both between the Jewish and all that going on over there. So, yeah.
Well, if there's AI involved in global ruling like that, that means that there's definitely going to be a corporation that runs that AI.
Absolutely.
That will be de facto.
And here's what gets more interesting. There's, and this is according to Christian, circuits and theology and biblical texts, all this stuff. There's going to come a lot of really severe problems, economic collapses, things like perhaps a meteorite crashing into the earth, and flooding happening, other diseases coming out worse than COVID. So all this stuff is happening, and people are in panic mode, fear mode, and then this one world ruler comes out, makes a peace treaty with in Israel, okay? And all these people just want things to go back to normal. And this guy says, I can help. I can help bring all this back to normal. And so we need to come together and have a one world currency. So if you want in the currency, if you want to buy and sell goods, you've got to get a chip. and in, like in your hand or a chip in your forehead, right? So that you can be tracked and be part, and we could have your bank account and, all this.
By the way, some goofballs have already been chipped voluntarily. You've heard the news.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you combine chip technology with AI and geofencing. So now it's, okay, Bohdan, you can stay in your city, okay? And you're not allowed to go more than a mile outside your city. So you got your chip.
That's actually not very far from what I'm currently experiencing.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So here's the kicker, though. People are like, well, how's one person going to rule and make people stay in the city? That's how geofencing and that chip that you got implanted. And so you get your social score docked, and you leave your city. I'm going to go to my girlfriend's house 50 miles away, and they detect that. Then you come back home. You're like, wait a minute, $500 is going out of my bank account?
What happens if you run out of money? If you broke, they're going to deactivate you.
No. If you're broke, see, this is the problem. People aren't going to be broke because they're going to comply because they want the food, they want the medication. So, and this Antichrist will say, I'm God, and you got to worship me. This is the Christian take, and this is what the Bible says. You're going to have to worship me. And so people are just going to worship him and be part of his economy. And not every country is going to go in with this.
Yeah.
So there is going to be division, because not every country is going to be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to submit to one guy. Hey, have my whole country, bring in all your tech, all your AI, and rule us. Absolutely. No, we're fine. We're going to be our own country. We'll take care of ourselves. Stuff like that.
Which countries do you think will resist?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, right?
I don't know.
Countries, honestly, countries that have been expected to be the most active in certain matters proved to be a bit, passive in certain regards. I mean, I don't want to throw a poke at America specifically, but we can even talk about NATO alliance, right? NATO was initially basically invented to resist fascism, to push back on injustice, to protect the countries from fascism. Now in 21st century, the central biggest European country gets straight up invaded. It's not like some Cold War or some sort of pretentious episode that happened somewhere, and still nothing. So holy shit. Wait, that Antichrist that you were talking about, when he would roll into the Middle East offering some sort of peace treaty, it sounds hell like Donald Trump was saying,
Yeah, but let me say
that's his vocabulary. Sounds like his speech.
Yeah. And here, and it's funny because in the Christian community, people are like, AI is the Antichrist. I'm like, no, AI is technology. It's not the Antichrist. Like, it'll be used, by him. But anyhow, I don't study this a ton. I just learn enough to keep my finger on the pulse, if that makes sense, right? I'm not going to deep dive this stuff, but I know that I heard one minister say, when you see the third temple built, that's when you really need to pay attention for the return of Christ, because in that third temple, that's where the Antichrist will rule from. And so I've got my eye on that. And in Israel, they already got the plans drafted for the third temple. They're supposed to have a sacred cow that they can sacrifice and use the blood to purify the land that it's to be built on. And so they got the brown cows. They flew them over from Texas. Red cow. Sorry, it's a red heifer. It's a red cow. It can't have any blemish in it. No white hair, no black. It's got to be 100% red. They got 2 of them over there. Flew them over from Texas. Prepping. Someone told me they already sacrificed one and christened the blood, christened the land. Purified.
It's a common practice in lots of countries, unfortunately.
So, which goes back to your animal love, and I understand that, man. It's tough. But the thing is, though, is that this whole temple is being planned to be built. So that's, again, I'm no expert in this. I just keep my pulse on enough to understand. I'm just really busy as an exorcist, so I focus 90% of my efforts on that and follow different things on a per need basis.
On the topic of Israel and what's happening in Israel, have you been kind of exposed to these narratives that are becoming louder in American informational sphere about the United States being basically almost somehow obliged to Israel and being too complacent before Israel and being factually controlled by Israel? Because time to time I run into this very, very radical neo-Nazis on YouTube, guys like Paul Miller, whoever is going to listen, maybe they know those names, and Nick Fuentes. So they masquerade themselves as these political commentators and bloggers, whereas who they really are is just neo-Nazis with very radical ideas. And from their mouths, you often hear ideas that it's all Jewish people and Israel is to blame. And then occasionally there's something appealing in listening to those voices, I find myself, because it's maybe, and they're also big racists, they're the biggest racists out there, and they're still platformed. But, and I keep wondering why listening to this radical, oftentimes unhinged, delusional and crazy ideas, why it's so interesting,
because sometimes it's entertaining. I mean,
it's entertaining.
I don't
and
watch
one thing
them,
is because, nobody else says that. Nobody else says that, and then bam, there's this guy dropping the N-word easily, casually, right? And I'm like, what? You could do that, actually, So, yeah, do you think Israel is the biggest threat to modern to countries? Do you think? Yeah. Do you think? Have you been exposed to these voices like that? Have you heard any very radical stances towards in terms of anti-Semitism?
No, and I apologize. I mean, again, it's I'm so busy in the exorcism stuff that clients take a lot of time, man. A lot of time.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but no, I mean, I've kept an eye on the war over there, from the beginning, and it's just ongoing and ongoing and ongoing. And Donald Trump's tried to bring peace, and it's just not happened. And so,
well, wasn't it stopped like a week ago or something? Wasn't there some sort of
I
agreement
think there
signed?
was, something. I mean, there may be a newer one, but I remember there was some
I think they signed
ceasefire.
something, and then somebody broke it, and it might have been Israel actually that fired something. But again, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
which is crazy. Yeah, it's pretty.
I mean,
crazy.
tough times. I mean, it's interesting in the Bible. Jesus Christ said right out of his mouth that in the end there will be wars, rumors of wars, pestilence. Because the disciples asked, when are you coming back? And he kind of laid these kind of symptoms out of when it's getting close to his return. And wars and rumors of wars were two signs. I mean, those have been with us forever. But in today, like the war that you're experiencing, the war in Israel, I mean, then what was it? Pakistan and India, they flared up there for a while. These could be the signs. Plus the building of that third temple, that's a clear sign, of his return. So I don't know. I just know as a Christian, and when I talk to some of my Christian friends, it's like, come on, we're ready. It's bad enough.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the third temple being built. You would have to probably agree that the phrase about war and wars could have been applied to a lot of periods of life, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's been numerous times through Christianity that people are like, Christ is coming, and he's never came. But I think, but there was never the third temple in place. So a lot of times, I'm no expert, but one thing I do know is when that third temple starts to be constructed, it's close. I just, that makes sense to me, like rationally, and it lines up with scripture when this third temple. So you know, in prior generations when people are like, Jesus is coming, it's like, no, dude, they're not building the third temple. So you don't know. It's just, no, we're not. We're not. But this
Are
got
you
my
worried
attention.
sometimes that even if the second coming does happen, lots of people will take it for false flag? Lots of conspiracy theorists will say that it's the government distracting our attention.
It's interesting because I just watched a Christian minister. You know, he was explaining how that this will be explained by alien abduction, and I think there's merit to that, because as an exorcist, we deal with demons and people who came to them as aliens that abducted them, and it's demonic, it's demons, and they, if you have demons, they can do anything they want in your mind. They can do any type of illusion. They can take you up, and it's interesting because most of these alien abductions, they're sexually violated.
Oh, hell yeah.
And it's like, okay. So interesting.
Yeah, that's crazy.
About,
what if it's true though, man? What is your religion, a man of faith perspective on aliens?
It's demons, because I deal with them. I deal with them.
No, but in terms of like extraterrestrial life, you disregard it completely?
I say that it's demons, and I say things like, I mean, I don't have all the answers, right? I'll be clear on that. But from an exorcist perspective, I think that when things are seen in the heavenlies, I think that could be spiritual conflict between angels and demons that are coming into our realm, and they're coming through. And so you're seeing things like that, things moving and you know, things like that. All I can tell you, though, outside of that, of the sightings and things, is that there are YouTube videos of people who are channeling aliens. Now,
yeah.
Okay.
You might have heard of the name Brian Greer, his surname.
I have not heard. Yeah. But I will tell you this: channeling is where you allow a demon to come into your body and your mind. Okay, and then you allow that demon to speak through you. And of course, in the Christian context, in the book of Deuteronomy, this practice is forbidden because it's demonic. So, from an exorcist perspective, when people are saying they're channeling aliens, and those aliens are speaking through them, it's actually a demon masking as an alien. And why would Satan care to do this? Why would he have a demon come and say, you act like an alien? And a lot of Christian teachers and exorcists believe that this is to help strengthen the argument that when the rapture happens, that the aliens took them.
Oh man, because the rapture, huh?
Yeah, a lot of these aliens, quote, / demons that speak through these people do talk about people being taken away and so forth. So I just think it's all potentially.
What do you think about the rapture?
I'm excited for it.
You? Really? Were you waiting for it last time?
Huh?
Were you waiting
no,
for
I've
it
never
last time?
believed this. I've never believed that the rapture is ever going to happen.
A couple of days back, my girlfriend shows me this video on YouTube that YouTuber made a video compilation from TikTok users, the most fervent ones, the most vehemently invested emotionally, physically, and even economically in that. Because listen, some goofballs, they sold their flats, they sold their cars. You know, there was a video of a fat ass mother talking to her toddler, you know, crying, trying to calm the toddler down, saying, Mommy's going to Jesus, Mommy's going to be lifted up. Ridiculous. I'm watching that, I'm thinking like, holy shit.
Bro, this is what I'm talking about. This is, there's two things that go on here. It makes the Christian community look bad. There's two things. I'll share what they are. Number one, unresolved trauma. So there's mental health conditions there. That's first. And second, uneducated. They're uneducated.
Well, and also,
I'm talking with the Bible. They're because if they understood that the third temple has to be constructed before Christ can return, and that's not saying as soon as it's done he's going to return. It's saying it's imminent, right? The third temple's not been built. So these people, when I say they're uneducated, I mean, they could have degrees from Harvard. I don't know. I'm saying when it comes to biblical text, they are uneducated. And another example of this is where Christians will say the COVID vaccine was the Antichrist. No, it's not the Antichrist, because
COVID was boring.
Right. The biblical text says it's a person that's coming to the middle. So I don't know. It makes Christians look bad when you see crazy stuff like that. And it actually, I feel sad for them.
I think I've heard this label Antichrist being put on the guy behind ChatGPT, Sam Altman. Yeah, a lot of people have been commenting.
Well, speaking of ChatGPT, no, the Antichrist is not. But here's what's interesting. I had it was my brother. I have an older brother, and he is, I mean, you'd love him. Absolutely analytical. I mean, just so, I mean, he could be the Terminator. Okay.
I don't know if Terminator was very analytical, you know. He was very,
Don't you remember the probe in the first one where he's looking and it was...
Well, yeah, that guy was doing a lot of shit, you know, a lot of shit at the same time. And he also object. Amazing. Usually you only get one, you know, look at me.
Well, anyhow, check this out. So he told ChatGPT, I want you to answer in only 3 ways to my questions. Yes, no, or banana, which means I can't say. Okay? So yes, no, or banana. So he starts asking him questions like, do you believe the end of the world will come? Yes. This is what ChatGPT, yes. So it's either, do you believe it's going to be a single person that will rule the world? Yes.
Damn.
Is AI demonic? Yes.
What?
Yeah, really? I swear to God.
Holy shit.
And does demons control you? Yes.
Bro.
I mean, this is what it's saying. And so, and there's other, like, so I'm going to give you context about this from an exorcist perspective. But there's other videos out there where people will basically get into kind of these end times / demonic talks with ChatGPT and you know, because it's data driven. So it's got all this data off the internet and it's just regurgitating back.
Right.
You know, and I think people lose sight of that this is just.
No, people mostly don't understand how it really works. And neither do I. Yeah.
Because I'm a computer programmer and I used AI in my last 2 years of employment. I understand how this works. It's just taking a bunch of data and being able to quickly assess, and based on the amount of data it has, it will answer your question.
But the question is, it becomes really personalized. It knows how to talk to you. It becomes
personalized, right? Because it can analyze your wording.
Sure. Yeah.
How you type.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Wow. So, but anyhow, yeah, it was just interesting that, you know, this thing is saying.
You know, it would be cool if your brother had asked ChatGPT after that last question to expand on it a little bit. Like, what do you mean by demons controlling you? You know?
And he said to it, like, do you want me to have the demons come out of you so you could feel better? And it said yes.
For sure.
So he types come out of him. You know, just joking. My brother's laughing as he's doing this. And then he's like, do you feel better? It said yes.
Yes. It would be cool if it said something like, do you feel better, banana? You know?
He did say banana. I can't remember what he asked him, but the banana answers were like chilling. You know
what I don't like about, you know, a lot of people, I don't, here's my personality. I'm going to tell you in a couple of words my personality. I like disagreeing with people for purely scientific and philosophical reasons sometimes, just to see where they really stand. So whenever somebody tells me how horrible it is to live in Ukraine, how corrupted and economically failing this country is, I always bring an example of a buddy of mine who's been doing the renovation in my house, which is ongoing for a lot of years, and you know that. And he managed to buy his own house for relatively small money. I would tell you the number, but it probably wouldn't mean a lot for you. But I'm telling you, it's the kind of money that I make in a month, you know. And this guy bought his entire house with a piece of land for that. So you go and figure out about how hard economically it is in living in Ukraine. But at the same time, if somebody runs his mouth saying how wonderfully it is to live in Ukraine, I would also disagree with that because of those goddamn drones and a bunch of other huge factors. So, shit, where I was going.
You like exploring scientific and
why the hell did I?
Philosophical.
Oh, yeah. So people, I don't like when people criticize AI, and I also don't like when people praise it too much, because usually people who criticize AI, they just don't know how to use it properly. You can literally go to settings of ChatGPT and insert a couple of prompts, and you can manipulate ChatGPT as you wish. You can make ChatGPT be skeptical, be a hater, be critical as possible, coming up with lots of links and evidences. But if you're just an average user and you open ChatGPT for the first time and you trust with your entire life on what it's going to tell you, no, it's a gullible and stupid approach, in my opinion. So,
absolutely.
I mean, I love having some deep conversation with ChatGPT. I'll be the first
to admit.
But
amazing. You understand it's not human. And so I think what happens is, because they program ChatGPT to respond to you in the way that you like to hear, based on personality, because you type to it and it studies your sentence structure,
it remembers you,
It remembers you. So they add the human aspect, and that's where it gets a little crazy, because, when it's giving you emojis back, and telling you how wonderful you are and perfect you
winking
are,
at me, flirting with me. I mean, what?
Right. So now these people are falling in love with this thing.
Oh, yes. Husbands divorcing their wives. Couple of cases. A lot of cases. Only a couple of that we know of.
So I will tell you this, as an exorcist, the potential, not saying it is, but the potential of that being demonic is probable.
Oh, yeah. Well, everything that's human could be demonic, right? And whether we like it or not, there are humans behind that. There are humans behind this.
And there's it's interesting because there's philosophy behind that too. There are morals put behind that and ethics from the people who program it. So, for example, this was not you. I took a screenshot of a YouTube video I was watching of a guy. It was a reaction video to an NF song. So I just wanted to see what's he look like, because it sounded cool. So I take a screenshot. I upload it to ChatGPT. I said, can you describe this person to me? And so it did. And I said, I wanted to know, are they thick or are they thin?
Oh, that's my question when I see some bitches, I'll tell you.
So it begins to reprimand me that I should not judge people based on their body type.
That's the human element that we don't need in AI, right?
Yeah. So he's reprimanding me because, as a blind person, I can't see them. I'm not judging them, right? I'm not judging. I just want to know, are they thicker in body size or are they athletic? That's what I asked it. Are they thicker? And it's telling me to not judge people. This is wrong. And so this is my point. Like, the people behind this have programmed in their philosophies, so it's not some neutral AI. So I said, look, man? Dude, this is what I wrote.
Chat, if I asked the question,
hold on, let me tell you this. This is there. I said, look, dude, I'm blind. I can't see. I just want to know, are they thick or athletic? That's it. I'm not judging him. This is what I put in. I said, I'm not judging them. So it writes back and it's like, okay, Justin, I understand. In that case,
but
the person appears to be a little more thick than athletic build.
Okay. Wow.
And I was like,
you got schooled by ChatGPT. Crazy.
multiple times. Multiple times.
I'm thinking about myself asking the same question. I'm pretty sure my ChatGPT, knowing everything I've inserted in it would immediately answer that question. It would probably answer it even more brutally. My chat would go like, oh yeah, it's a fat ass bitch, for sure. Yeah.
Well, the other time I was deep diving, as an exorcist, I prefer people, they don't have to get a DNA test run, so I can see their ethnicity. What all do they bring to the table? Because out of those countries come, occultic specific practices and rituals. And so I was researching some areas in Africa with ChatGPT just to see some of the customs and practices and mythological entities that they worship. So I was done researching this area, and I said, are there any other, I forget what I said. Like, I didn't say uncivilized. I said, is there any other
uneducated, maybe, or what?
Something like this. I was like, are there any other tribes in Africa that have not, oh, that's what I said, have not been modernized?
Okay.
Because I just wanted to know, are there any tribes that are still really rooted in their traditions that aren't modernized, you know, computer?
Right.
And it proceeded to reprimand me that I'm judging them, that I should
almost
honor.
You said some N-word, right?
Right. I should honor and respect their values and their customs. Wow. And I was like, hey,
that's crazy.
I asked a question. I'm not judging them. I want to know if they are continuing their practices. And it was like, oh, okay. You know, so I always, not always, but occasionally I'll get that where he's going to reprimand me.
Have you ever asked ChatGPT to give some kind of psychological profile of yours based on everything that you've ever talked about? Because it's an interesting practice. Have you done that?
I have, because I will say, not exactly psychological, I will say, what do you know about me and my personality?
Right, yeah, was something like that.
Yeah.
Was it accurate?
Spits it out. Pretty accurate. Yeah. I can't say 100%, but fairly accurate.
My ChatGPT, which is free version, I still am, you know, I still don't want to invest money in that, because currently what it uses is more than enough for me. And I think the moment when I start buying the premium subscription is the moment when my life becomes even worse, because who knows, me and my girlfriend, we don't need that kind of trouble. So when I asked that, it gave me details that you wouldn't normally want to see in that profile of mine. For instance, long time before that, I don't know what the hell I was thinking about. You know, we were sitting with my girlfriend in this little coffee shop, and, you know, I asked her a stupid question. I said, who do you think is cooler, a werewolf or aristocratic vampire? And don't ask me any question. You know, that's the bullshit that came to me.
Yeah, I understand.
You know, so we started having conversation. I think she picked werewolf, and I agreed with her, and I decided to go and ask ChatGPT what they think about. I think I asked ChatGPT who I fit better, who I would, you know, whatever, portray.
Yeah.
You know, and then a couple of months later, when I came up to chat and asked it, you know, to basically remind me everything that, you know, whatever chat knows and things about me, bam, there it goes. Factor number one, the very first thing, before my type of character, before any other preferences, it goes like, oh, you're into aristocratic vampires. I never said I was into, because that sounds unacceptably homosexual. And the very first slide I read on ChatGPT is like, you're into aristocratic vampires. Holy shit. Imagine if I committed a crime and some modern department of police decide to run my ChatGPT history. He's an aristocratic vampire connoisseur, right? Enjoyer. That explains why he murdered his family.
Wow.
Chat is crazy.
Interesting stuff. Yeah, it's I find it a very useful tool, you know, and I use it a lot as an exorcist. Because I was a computer programmer. Because as a computer programmer, I'm all about technology. You know, I appreciate it. I appreciate AI. I don't think it's evil. It's all in the eye of the beholder and how you use it. That's anything in life, right?
For sure.
So
100%.
I love AI, man. Yeah. They got this year, I've got actually in a few months, I'll be getting a pair of glasses I can wear that uses ChatGPT to look around, and just like if I drop something on the floor and I can't find it, I can just say, find my.
Will it help you see better?
It will see for me, if that makes sense. So just a pair of glasses you put on, almost like the Facebook Meta glasses, which I have a pair of those. They're not specialized for blind people, but these glasses are. It just has a real nice, you know, camera in the center. And so it'll just, like, if I can't wait for this, dude, you know how long
you also need a pair of headphones for that. You know, that would be cool.
you can put earbuds in them, and they Bluetooth pair to ear. But what I'm looking forward to is reading paperback books or hard books.
Like,
I'm that crazy blind dude that I'm going to be sitting on my porch with a hardback book and these glasses on, flipping the pages, drinking my coffee, and getting into a.
You need a pipe for that book as well. I tell you, man, I still have a hope in my heart to bring you back to smoking. It was a horrible decision to quit.
No, I don't need cancer. Thank you. I appreciate that, but
I'm fine. Whatever. Yeah. Oh man. So listen, on the final note, because we're gonna have to wrap this boy up. You mentioned that's another topic I'd really like to bring up, and it ties into Bible being the basis for morality in society. So, but before that, let me ask you if you have discussed with your Muslim friends who you've mentioned, which scripture is more fitting to base our modern societal values on. Have you had that conversation with them?
I have not. Yeah, I have not. It's interesting because I have watched some Christian apologists that, debate. There's this guy, Cliff.
Oh yeah, I know him. Yeah.
What's his last name? Negel or something? Or
kind of elderly guy. And
he goes on college campuses and all that. He's fascinating to watch. I just that's not me. I'm never going to do that because I'm just not that guy, right? But he brought up an interesting point. I remember it just came back to my mind. He was speaking with a student that was Muslim, and he challenged that student by saying, why would you believe something written by Muhammad about Jesus Christ 600 years past Christ's birth? So Muhammad came 600 years after Christ. Why would you put more faith in that than in the Bible where his disciples were right there with him? So
what was the response?
That I don't remember. But you can find that one. But I think, and another thing that Cliff always gets back to, which is interesting, that for atheists or anything, that it always comes back to morals. And he just kind of nudges them back that those morals come from somewhere, and that those morals come from the Bible, essentially.
Right. Yeah. And that's exactly the crux of the topic that I'm about to bring here. And by the way, it was first heard by me from a guy who often debated this Cliff guy, Cliff. Yeah. So Alex O'Connor, the tag Cosmic Skeptic, amazing intellectual, fairly young and very educated. So let's imagine a situation when you are of Christianity and I'm of Muslim religion, right? I have one set of value. You have slightly different set of value. We both want to kill each other. Let's take it to extremes. Your God tells you that you have to kill me. My God tells me the same regarding you. How do we understand more in the modern days currently how to resolve this issue?
Well, my God would never tell me to kill you. So that argument's irrelevant.
What if it does? I mean, it did.
But it doesn't. Like, that's hypothetical.
Yeah, sure. Well, this entire situation is hypothetical, and it was known to happen in the Bible. So the point of the guy who raised this, he said that if we base our morality on religion generally, any religion, right, it's very difficult to dissuade a person from committing a crime if he claims that God commanded him. Whereas if it's a bit more secular approach, when then we have all kinds of, repercussions, police and having bad outcomes generally in society, people will look down upon you, minimally speaking. So you understand the point, right? The morality grounded in some sort of secular values can be negotiated and explained. Whereas if there's a hypothetical religious person, a person of faith, who claims to have received direct commands from God, nothing will stop that person, right? So I understand what you say, that your God won't ever command you anything like that. But
his point is that because you're confined to religious morals and doctrines, it limits your ability to being open to resolving situations. Whereas if you're not religious, a secular viewpoint allows you to have a wider range of resolving problems. Is that correct?
Basically. And it also touches upon the inability to, again, to talk that religious person out of doing it because he's being commanded by God.
Well, and the thing is, though, is what's interesting to me is most people that, and I'm not saying all by all means, but most people that are atheists and are so adamant and oppositional toward Christianity have been raised in Christian homes. That's what's interesting to me. And I'm sure you've seen it on YouTube where a lot of atheists do become Christian. I don't know if you're aware of that or not, but there are a lot of it.
Happen.
Right.
Of course.
Right. So that's what's interesting to me. It's like these guys get mad at Christianity and fight it, become an atheist, and then oftentimes, not all the time, they swing back around. They're like, "Oh yeah, I was wrong." But to back to this analogy and so forth, it's in Christianity, as you know, your friend growing up was a Christian and you used to bash him and give him a hard time.
I got pissed because what drove me mad is that he kept crossing.
He kept hounding you.
No, he kept crossing me with his fingers. Every time we would talk about something, I said, "You know what? I'm fucking hungry. I don't have money," because at those days I didn't have money. And he would be like, "Go be with you. God bless him." He would cross me, with his fingers like that, and something,
But as a Christian, if you follow the morals of Christ, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, all these morals, love your neighbor as yourself, right? If people follow that, society'd be okay. Society'd be okay. It's just, oh well.
Yeah.
It's like we're talking about a whole lot of stuff that it's been going on forever.
Exactly.
I mean, in the Bible, the Apostle Paul went to the Greeks in Athens, and they were all about pontificating life, all the religions, all the mythology, everything. And Paul would go and talk to them at Athens. This is where a lot of this philosophy and philosophical thinking came from, right? Is from the Greeks.
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
And so Paul went there and debated them, tell them about Christ, that he was buried, died, rose from the dead. Some of those Greeks actually believed, others didn't, thought he was crazy, he was a fool. So it's like even clear back from biblical times, there's always been, and I get it. It's hard being raised in a rational culture. Like we are very rational people, just in general. I mean, even from education, there's so much understanding we can have at our fingertips. And so it's hard for somebody that's rational to say, you know what, I'm just going to take that leap of faith and become a Christian and let this rationalization go. I would never recommend that. I would recommend people to study it. I mean, really study it. Study the Bible, see if there's enough evidence there for you for any of the merits.
Yeah, it's exactly studying the Bible. Reading the Bible itself is not enough. This is clearly not the reading that.
I mean, and it's a big book, so a lot of people.
It's a library, basically, right?
Yeah, and so like I don't know. It just give it an honest attempt at studying.
It can take so long, to be honest, because you've got to hear people, you have to talk to people, you have to ask questions. And most religious people go on.
I was just going to say, I mean, I've seen this where people have done this, especially university students, where they were opposed to Christianity, but they said, I'm going to study it. Like if I'm going to discredit it and say this is not true, or then they're going to study it and they're going to research it. And so they did. And a lot of times by the time that they're done, researching that, they say this is absolute truth and I accept it. They become a Christian. I've seen that many times on YouTube from, university students that go through, even like Jewish students that didn't believe Christ was the Messiah, or Muslim students, or people who are raised in Christian homes who weren't even Christian, really just give it an honest study and effort.
Sure.
But it does. You're right. It
intellectually just, it's intellectually fair. If you run your mouth about certain topics, you need to do the, you've got to know what you're talking about. Would you, because, oftentimes we hear this phrase that actually non-believers tend to know more about religion than some religious people. Would you agree sometimes this is also the case?
I think so. I think it just based on how invested, I had someone post on my blog, and this isn't about Muslim, this is in Christianity. I don't mean to come across as like, hey, Muslim, Christian, Christian. But on my blog, on my website, a person posted that said basically, look, the Christians I know drink and have sex and live with girls and do drugs, and I believe this person might have said they were Muslim, and they basically have a much better moral existence. They don't drink alcohol. They don't sleep around. They go to mosque. They pray every day. So they're, listing out. And his point was Christians are bad because they don't practice what they preach, but Muslims are good because we do.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, actually, my Muslim friends that I have, one is a strict Muslim who practices, and the other one's a raging alcoholic and could care less. He's still Muslim.
Yeah, sure.
He still says I'm Muslim, and he is, and he prays sometimes, and sometimes he'll go to mosque. Other times he's hitting the bottle and getting hammered, So I was sharing that with this contributor to say, hey, that it kind of works, both ways, but
definitely.
So, Christians aren't perfect people. And it's trying to find credible sources that have credibility when you study Christianity. And it's hard. It's so hard. It's hard.
Well, listen, man, we're pretty sure we can extend this bastard for 2 more hours. We are way past 2 hours, so it's getting pretty smoky in my room. I think I can barely see my laptop. I think soon we could be in the same group. We could be in the same team. So yeah, for the sake of my own health, let's get the hell out of here.
Well, listen, it's been a pleasure catching up, and we talked about a whole lot of stuff.
Yes.
And,
yes.
If people are interested, if you don't mind, I could just share a little bit of my contact. On your favorite podcast app, just search for The Blind Exorcist. So Spotify, Apple Podcast, any of them, iHeartRadio. I'm on YouTube, and my website is JustinD.com. So if you would be interested in just checking things out, feel free.
This podcast has been absolutely what I wanted it to be, structured, at the same time free, in our speculation.
I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed 100%. I'm not, to be honest, I'm not really one for politics or deep apologetic debates on the Bible, but I've enjoyed this. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed our time together.
For sure.
Yeah. It's great to speak with you. And
let's stay in touch, and there will be plenty more episodes to come, I'm pretty sure. Thank you, Justin.
Absolutely. Keep it up. Thanks, Bohdan.